All right, so what's going on, everyone? Hopefully, everyone is having a great weekend, and welcome to the Gaming and Reactions podcast. And we have a special guest in the house today. Once again, the Thinker. He's gonna join us for today's podcast, and he's gonna give us a lot of his perspective on things. And
yeah, I think we got a lot of good talking points.
Exactly.
To cover today.
So hopefully you guys are doing well again. So let's go ahead and get started. As you guys can see, we got a little starting off with the Final Fantasy VII Rebirth Tokyo Game Show. I was able to watch it a couple of days ago. I was just up late, and then it happened to be on YouTube, and so I was like, you know what, let me check this out. So we're gonna have that playing in the background here, and we're just gonna go ahead and get this thing rolling. Man, how you feeling today?
I'm feeling great. It's raining over here.
I'm feeling great. It's raining over here. Gloomy day, but in the man cave, all is well.
Absolutely,
Just
man.
ready to talk about some gaming news.
So today I want to start off, with discussion by saying, we're both excited, about some games that are coming out for the holiday season.
Oh yeah.
We got upcoming games like
I got my pre-order list ready to go.
See, I'm jumping in the gun. We have games like Alan Wake 2,
Yep.
right?
Disclaimer: I actually never played the original, but when I saw, I never really knew about Alan Wake. I knew it was a cult following, but when they showed that trailer for Alan Wake 2, I'm like, man, I've been sleeping on this. But then I went back to the original game just to see what it was, and I didn't have the motivation to play the original. The new one though just looks amazing, so I'm definitely picking that up. But full disclaimer: I'm not an original Alan Wake fan. I never played the original. I'm gonna be one of these people that just go straight to the sequel, and but I think it's gonna be a great game.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited for because I did play the original. It wasn't one of those types of games that, to me, that got me up out of my seat. But it was a very good game, and so I was like, okay, so what are they gonna do next, right? And then once they, drop the bomb, like, okay, this looks good. This is almost has that like Resident Evil.
Yeah, I got like a Resident Evil, like Last of Us type of, like the HUD was like just the third person perspective. I think was really polished. When they showed the second character you play with, the FBI agent.
Yes.
And she was in that kind of, I don't know where she was going through, but it kind of gave it like a Last of Us type of vibe to it.
Right.
Resident Evil type of vibe. And then I started reading about like, okay, what's the difference in the combat, with the light and the shadows. So I was like, okay, that's a pretty unique element.
And those are aspects of the game that I'm looking forward to seeing as well when that game comes out, because me, I'm an RE fan.
Yeah, you're an RE fan. You know what though? I'm zombied out, man. I played so much Resident Evil back in the day, and I know everyone does zombies, and that's just the way to go. But I like to see new stuff like this.
But we talked about that though.
Yeah.
We talked about going back to the roots. And you brought up a lot of good points with that, because I would like to see Capcom go back to the roots as well.
Yeah.
With the whole zombie, and not to steer too
the
far
supernatural stuff
away into the supernatural stuff, the ghosts and all that. I get it. We understand it, right? But me growing up with Resident Evil, I'm pretty sure you grew up with Resident Evil as well. PlayStation, and just to give you some background on that, because my cousins and they used to play like Madden.
They were the sports heads.
They were sports heads, right. And I just happened to walk back in the room. My cousin was playing this horror game, so I didn't know what it was. So I sat there and I was like, "What is this?" I'm like, "This is crazy." And back then, you were scared, because if you look at it now, you're like, "Oh, this garbage." I mean, compared to Resident Evil that we had. So I remember one part when he was running through the corridor, and the dog jumped through the window.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my goodness. That freaked me out.
The sound of the glass breaking?
Yes.
Yeah.
Then I was sold. I was like, man, I have to jump on this game. So at times when I was at my cousin house, Maurice, I would get there before my other cousin because I know what's going to happen. They're going to get back in the room. They're going to start playing Madden, and they will play that game all day long. So, but that was it for me with Resident Evil, and then I would just use to sit down and just play it so much. But yes, so Alan Wake 2. Then we have Spider-Man 2. That's coming out as well.
That's a must. Day one must.
Yes, and
see, there's certain games where you look at it and you're like, they try to tempt you with the pre-order bonuses, right? They're like, all right, should I even get a pre-order bonus, or should I wait to see if this is worth even dropping the money on? So let me just wait and see what the reviews come out, the user reviews, not these professional critic reviews, but what the users are saying like a week after it drops. Because there's been some times where I would drop money on a pre-order, play it, and then it didn't live up to the hype. And now I'm like, all right, let me just sit back and wait. And then if the game turns out to be good from the reviews, then I'll buy it. Who cares about the pre-order bonuses? There's certain games, though, you know it's not going to be bad.
Yeah,
It's going to be a day one. I look at Alan Wake 2. I don't see that. It's a gut feeling. Even though I never played the original, just looking how polished that game is, that looks like a day one. Spider-Man 2, no questions asked. That's no questions asked. Final Fantasy Rebirth, no questions asked.
Exactly.
Like there's games out there that you want to play at 12:01 a.m. and call out sick the next day. Those are the games where it's just like, don't bother me,
Leave me alone.
Leave me alone. I'm in hibernation mode.
Let's get it going. So, before we continue, D Nice, welcome to the stream, man. Devon, welcome to the stream as well. So, D said there's a little bit of an echo. Can you guys hear us loud and clear? Do we need to make any adjustments at all? Please let us know in the chat so that we can iron out, these technical issues before we move forward, because we want to make sure that the stream is good moving forward. So we talked about Alan Wake 2 that we're looking forward to. Spider-Man 2, I'm definitely looking forward to. What else?
This holiday season is going to be big.
Now I did get Lies of P, but I haven't played it yet. So is that something that you...
I didn't pre-order Lies of P. I played the demo. When the demo came out, I played it. I'm not like a Souls type of guy. It's not because of the difficulty. I don't know. It's just something about the pacing of the combat. It's like they put too much emphasis on like the bosses. I appreciate a good grand boss battle, but I don't know. There's just I can't really put it into words. Like the Souls type games, it's like when I played Bloodborne, I got like halfway through the game and then I just kind of lost interest. I actually like the difficulty because then it like forces you to get the timing correctly.
Right.
I like the element of it. It's like not just like this hack and slash. I like the hack and slash. Like you have like Devil May Cry would be like a staple of that, right?
Right.
Hack and slash. You can blow through the game. It doesn't really require that much skill, but then you have a game where it forces you to be skillful.
Right.
You can't just hack and slash.
Right.
You got to time their moves correctly. You got to dodge correctly, and it's brutal. Like that health bar is low. Those enemy hits are powerful, and then it's like, man, I died again. I got to restart. Fine, the Souls like is going back and trying to get to that point.
To that point, exactly.
Your currency in the game. I actually like that point of it, but I don't know. Maybe I've just been more accustomed to. It's hard to put into words. Like a more like. I don't know. It's. I appreciate those games, but it's just not my forte.
Right. Got you.
There's just something about it where I'm just like, I'm not like a day one gonna play it. So I beat Lies of P demo. I was like, I see it. I'm like, this is good. But I didn't pre-order that game. I haven't played it.
And just to touch a little bit on the Souls games, when it comes to Demon Souls, Bloodborne. Now I am at a good space in Bloodborne. I still have not beaten Bloodborne.
Yeah, I stopped midway point. It's
sometimes,
That's
you know,
probably one of the hardest games I've ever played.
yes.
Bloodborne, I think, is
Yes.
one of the hardest Souls-like games.
I think I've gotten further in Elden Ring than Bloodborne.
Okay. And that's a huge game.
And that's a big
massive game.
now with Elden Ring, man, I'm like, oh my goodness, man. You know, it sucks, man. You try to find. I mean, once you get to a point where you find, you know, your rhythm or a strategy to beat the boss, and then something else happens, I'm like, you can't be serious right now. So then you have to start over, and then you have to, you know, figure something else out. So that's something that gets me, that makes me want to just, you know, toss the controller across the room and be like, yo, I give up. So I haven't played Elden Ring in quite some time. I mean, I haven't played Bloodborne in a long time, so I don't know if I ever, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the Souls like. Well, there's some upcoming Souls games. I know they showed through one of the game shows. What was that?
I
the
know
samurai game that Zero.
Is it Phantom Zero, guys?
Phantom Zero?
Is that what it's called?
So I read up about it. It's like a Souls type, but it's a little bit not as like harsh.
Okay.
With the combat. So it's kind of like appeasing some of the more casual gamers, but there's still some kind of like, it's not like you can't go purely hack and slash like a Devil May Cry type of deal. It does require some skill, but it's not as extreme as like a Bloodborne.
Okay.
It's kind of like they're trying to find a middle ground, because the thing with the Souls games is it really caters to a specific group. Like casual gamers, they don't have the patience for that type of game. You know, they don't.
Right.
They especially being spoiled with like God of War and Devil May Cry, where those games. I mean, God of War, yeah, you can say it's a little bit more difficult than a Devil May Cry, but you reach a point where you become overpowered.
Yes.
And you can just blast through regular enemies.
Right.
But with Bloodborne, it doesn't matter. You got the best weapon. Like, no. Like a regular foot soldier could kill you.
Exactly.
If you just try to button mash. It's not going to work.
And you know, and I think that's the beauty of it. But also I think it's the, you know, it's like a love and hate relationship.
Yeah.
You know,
really,
like,
it tests your patience.
Exactly. I'm like, man,
But that was a good point. I think I stopped midway point. I forgot what boss. It's been so long. But there was a boss. Same thing what you said. You get the timing down. And then, you know, the boss is in their last stage. Then they get like almost in rage mode.
Exactly.
And then they bring out a new moveset. And then you got to relearn the timing or how the spacing, how far. Like, is it a move where it's like like I call like an area effect,
right?
Where you have to be like, you can't even absorb the damage. You got to be out of that hitbox. And it's like, okay, I spent 10 deaths going back. Now I'm almost about to beat the boss, and they come with this last moveset, and you're like, I gotta relearn the timing of this. It really tests your patience.
And now that you brought that up, I think that's also an Elden Ring.
Yeah.
Like some of the bosses, once you get like their power meter down to a certain percentage, they speed up whatever they're doing, or they do a new attack, and I'm like, my goodness,
that's not a new strategy. Like, even look at something like Final Fantasy.
Yeah,
turn-based. You have bosses where, when they're in their final stages, they start bringing the most powerful spells, but it's nowhere near like the skill set involved, because you're not dodging. You know, it's a turn-based. It's a completely different type of game. You know, so. Yeah, I mean, you have to you have to really like those type of games. I could have put it this way: I could appreciate playing it, but that's just not my genre.
Gotcha.
You know, so I played the demo Lies of P. I know it's successful. I've seen good reviews. You know, people liking it. But I think for the casual gamer, it's hard to get into those type of games.
So I take it you're casual.
No, I consider myself more than a casual gamer. But it's just not, because again, I can play those games and I could beat them, but it's just nothing. Like, put it this way, like sports. I used to be really big into sports games, Madden, FIFA, but now I lost interest in it. I could appreciate how real the Madden is now. Like, I look at the NBA 2K, like the 24, like I'm like, man, this is dope. But in the 90s, I used to play like, well, I remember it was like NBA Live 95.
Yes.
Like when NBA Live
those
came
are the
out,
days.
I used to play, I used to have the season, and I used to be so immersed in that. But then, like, as you get older, your taste changes, just like with food. You know, when I was a kid, you stick a lobster in front of me, I'm like, I'm not eating this. But then when you get older, you're like more, you know, it's like, no, I like lobster. But so your taste change, you know, you grow up. So it's nothing new. I mean, I could appreciate it still. I could go back and say, yo, I like sports games, but I'm not playing Madden.
All right.
Same thing with Call of Duty. Like I used to play the hell out of Call of Duty, but nowadays I don't. I'm not one of those Call of Duty heads that spend hours online. It just doesn't interest me anymore.
Yeah, and you know, and that's another game that I've been playing for the past month or two.
Well, that's a new one coming out, so you excited for that one?
Modern Warfare 3. Yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see what, you know, the campaign has to offer, and you know, I just like these types of shooter games.
It's so short though. Like
yeah,
6 hours.
Yeah, it's
you blow it through in an afternoon.
You're right. But you know, being Marines, you know. And then, you know, just to prepare myself for, you know, multiplayer. You know, like right now, I'm just trying to get my KD up. You know, my stats up. I'm like blah, and then when Loco jumps in, then my KD goes down. I know he's not in the stream yet, but he's good. D Nice, you know, those guys, they jump in with me and
cool.
And then played. So, but other games like you know, Forza Motorsport's coming out. So I'm not sure if you're a race car.
I used to be big into Gran Turismo. Same thing, like the racing genre. Like this is the thing. I think as you get older, you get different responsibilities. You got, you know, wife and kids. It's just like the time you have to prioritize your time,
right?
You know, because like if I was a teenager again, I would be playing everything, because it's just like you got no response, you got no one depending on you. And nowadays, it's like, okay, if I'm going to spend time on my hobbies, I need to like, okay, what's my favorite types of games to play? It does, like, again, it doesn't mean that I don't like the Souls games or the sports games, racing games,
right,
or the, you know, online shooting games, FPS or whatever. It's just that I don't have the time, so I have to prioritize, you know. And usually, those are given towards like very heavily like story-driven games, like The Last of Us, the God of Wars. Those take a lot of my time up, so I'm going to put those at the top of my list. I want to be able to play Gran Turismo and get into the, you know, but I just don't have the time.
Right,
and
right.
That's something that you always have to kind of balance.
Right, because you have a type of game that you know, you want to play, like the story-driven games.
Those are favorites.
Right.
You know, it'll be nice to. It doesn't mean I don't like the other. It's kind of like going back to lobster. Like, you know, it's like if I only had a couple choices to eat a good meal a week, what are you gonna have? Well, I'm gonna have the fillet. I'm gonna have the lobster. I'm gonna have the scallops. But then it doesn't mean like once in a while I want to go have a pizza or a burger.
Right.
But
right.
I may not just have the time to eat it. So I'm just like, let me prioritize what I want to do.
Now, this is big money Tim here. This is big money to thinker. You know, he has you know, he's high maintenance with his food. No, just joking. But to do a 180 to go back to Phantom Zero, is it Phantom Blade Zero? Thank you, D Nice.
Yeah,
that game looks amazing.
Amazing. So
when they showed that at the showcase, I was like, oh my goodness, we got to get that game.
Amazing. You know what? Even that game and the other one too, that I kind of read, it's almost like a Souls-like, because I've been waiting for it for so long. Wukong.
Wukong, yes.
That game, even if that's purely Souls, I'll make the exception for that game. I will make the exception just because I've been waiting on that game for going on 5 years now.
Yes,
that's been in development so long, and that game I'm really hyped. I think that's a day one. It's a day one.
It's a day one for me, and I'm pretty sure that
I just want to polish. Take your time. I just want to polish. I don't want no day one 90 gigabyte patch.
Exactly, you know, fill up the whole, you know, PlayStation. Yeah. You have to delete everything. Yep. You know, it is being built in Unreal Engine 5.
Oh yeah,
what we heard.
Beautiful.
So
looks beautiful.
I mean, it looked gorgeous without it being Unreal Engine 5, and I was like, man, this game is amazing. So Game Science, you know, they're the ones responsible for making.
And I say, even if they make it strictly Souls-like, the difference is there's because of the creativity you can do with the offense. I don't know if you've seen the trailer, like the shape shifting. There's so many. It's not like a Bloodborne or like an Elden Ring where it's like you're really like purely skill based. Like, yeah, you have like an RPG element where you can get better weapons and armor and like attributes. But the Wukong is like the diversity of the offense. It lends itself to a lot of creativity. So
right.
That would be one selling point where even if you make the game as hard as you want, just the type of things you can do offensively, because like a Bloodborne, it's not really too much creativity with the offense.
There's not much to do on that side of the...
It's not, it's not like, there's no spells and there's no like, it doesn't have that mystical element to it.
Right.
You're very limited to like just a sword or, or the Sith or whatever.
Yeah.
So you kind of, it's like at its core, it's just, they strip away everything and they leave it strictly like the timing and the dodging and the defensiveness. Mm-hmm. But they don't have that creativity element. Wukong, dude, that's the day one.
Looking forward to Wukong.
But that's not this holiday season.
It's not. It's not this holiday.
So let's just focus. There's a lot of good games for this holiday season.
Yes. So, I think we touched on, some of the games that are coming out. Just for the remaining of this year, and we're definitely excited. We hope you guys are definitely excited as well about some of these games that are coming out, because I look forward to live streaming. I know a lot of gamers are gonna be like, nah, I'm not gonna watch your live stream. I'm gonna play the game myself, so I don't want to be spoiled.
Yeah, for the AAA big releases,
Yeah, so
you want to play it yourself.
So I mean, what is there before we leave this one here? Is there any particular game that you are excited for to play?
Well, obviously we said the big ones like Spider-Man 2. Like we discussed a few days ago about Assassin's Creed, the Mirage. I think that would be a good game, like a filler game, because that's supposed to be coming out, I think, in like the first week of October. So like everyone, it's really gonna start picking up like the end of October, because I think really the quintessential AAA title that's coming out is Spider-Man 2, and that's October 20th.
Right.
So it's like, okay, what games do I play? Because we've been in a slump.
for quite some time,
yes. A slump. We're like, the crack fiend on the corner, like scratching their neck. Like, they need product, man. And so we've been in a slump, and I think Assassin's Creed Mirage is a good filler, because that gives you a few weeks of gameplay. And from what I heard, the game is more condensed. It's not as massive as like a Valhalla or Odyssey. And that's reflective in the price too. It's only like $50. It's not a $70 game. So I think they're showing that because you get a kind of a discount, it's not going to be one of these games where it's going to be a time suck, where you're going to put 100 hours into the game. So I think Mirage is a good game to get just for the month of October until the Spider-Man 2 drops. Alan Wake 2 comes out like a few days after or something.
Yeah, I think it comes out the 17th of October.
Or something. Yeah. So, that's the other point I want to make. I play Spider-Man 2 a little above Alan Wake 2 as far as like wanting to play it.
Gotcha.
And knowing myself, I won't start a game, especially a game like Alan Wake 2 where it's story driven, and then have to pause that game and then go to the game I really want to play.
Gotcha.
I know I'm going to enjoy Alan Wake 2, but I don't want to play it. And then a couple of days later, Spider-Man 2 drops. And you're like, and again, with the priorities, I don't have the time to juggle both. Once I play a story-driven game, I just like to focus on that, immerse myself until I beat it, and then I'll go and then play something else.
Yeah, that's a cool way to look at that.
So then that's kind of like, so we have the Mirage that will kind of give you that filler. Even though Alan Wake 2 comes a couple days before Spider-Man, I'm going to hold off until I beat Spider-Man, then I'll go back to Alan Wake.
Got you.
Yeah, so it's actually going to, speaking of which, it may be a while until I actually start Alan Wake 2. because Spider-Man 2 is dropping. That's going to take my time. And I'm assuming that I'm probably going to get at least 30 hours out of that game. You know, gotcha. Maybe not even doing all the side quests or whatever. But I'm a completionist, so we'll see.
Completionist, guys.
Oh, yeah.
Completionist. So,
but there's another. Oh, I don't know if you guys have been sleeping on this, but I really enjoy. I've never played it before. I played the Tales of Arise that came out a few years ago.
Okay.
I was like, actually pleasantly surprised by. It's a JRPG.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that cartoony, like the animation is like a little bit. I don't know. It's like a Japanese style RPG, but the combat is so fun. I was really surprised when I bought that game because it was during the pandemic.
Okay.
I was like, oh, what's this Tales of Arise? And apparently it's like they've had like 10 of them out there already. It's been going on for a long time. And there's always like Tales of something. It's like they changed the last name.
Right.
And they're making an expansion pack in November.
Oh, okay.
So that's another like little filler that I'm gonna get that I'm excited for seeing. So that's also a holiday. I saw it the other day. It's like it's not a full game, but it's like a kind of a semi. And I'm not actually sure if you need the original. I don't know if it's a standalone. You may need the original game, but that's also kind of another thing I'm looking forward to the holiday season. But yeah, Spider-Man 2 is probably going to carry me well into December, and then right after that's done, Alan Wake 2. Mirage I'll probably beat like in a couple weeks. You know, because I think that's a short game. I don't think it's going to be that long.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how long it's going to be, but I'm definitely looking forward to picking it up as well.
It's only $50,
so
it's not it's not a full price game. I think that alone, that's showing that it's not going to be one of these massive time suck games.
And so if you guys are looking forward, to some games, drop them in the chat and let us know. So
I'm just out of curiosity. Do they have a anticipated release date for Wukong, or are they just saying?
I don't think they have an anticipated date. I'm not even sure if they have an anticipated year. I don't remember seeing one. If you guys know, let us know. But I don't remember seeing during the showcase. They didn't really.
Yeah.
They didn't show any.
I wouldn't be
year.
surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if it drops like maybe early 2025, or maybe. I don't know. I don't know where they're at with it, but just because there really hasn't been too much talk about it, you figure like, okay, it's probably gonna be another year or so.
I'm hoping holiday 2024.
I think that could be realistic. That could be realistic. Holiday 2024. Yeah.
What do you think? Yeah, I mean, you think it should drop a little earlier than that? I mean, okay, 2025, right? Like
I wouldn't want them to drop it earlier than 2024 because I'm probably still going to be working on Rebirth.
Yes, we're gonna get to that. We're gonna get to that. We're gonna get to that.
I'm putting in 200 hours into that game.
Matter of fact, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna move into that because there's something that you stated earlier when it comes to priorities. We're gonna touch on priorities, right? So
you're gonna see for all the gamers that have a wife or kids, there's going to be a rise in divorces or like, fight or therapy, marriage counseling is going to be a rise when this type of game comes out. It's going to be like my husband, doesn't want to spend time with me. The kids are being neglected. The kids are missing school. Tim's off again, playing the game.
There's going to be an uptick of broken PlayStations.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, overheating issues.
Yes. Here we go.
Sony's going to be like, make sure your PS5 is well ventilated. Give it a rest, every 12 hours. Give it a rest.
Give it a rest. Now, speaking of Final Fantasy Rebirth, that showed up with, extended footage, what we talked about earlier. And we're going to probably, bring up a trailer here because I know that's something that you wanted to touch on. With what Square Enix has shown so far, we also got a release date as well and pre-orders.
Mm-hmm.
How excited are you about Final Fantasy VII Rebirth?
Let me tell you something. This game when I'll put it this way, Final Fantasy VII, the original, is probably one of my favorite games of all time. Of all time, it's up there with the original Resident Evil. It's up there with like, it's those games where it's not it's just at that point in time it was so groundbreaking.
Yes.
That's what gets you. It was so groundbreaking. It's hard to have these games now where it's groundbreaking because the technology, it's expected that the graphics are awesome. The game, it's expected.
Yep.
But then those games, when you look back in the history, like when Super Mario Brothers came out, groundbreaking. Duck Hunt.
Yes.
Like those things, like I don't know how old the gamers are in the chat or anyone else is watching. There's the younger generation. It's almost like when the old man is like, back in my day,
exactly,
this was real music. Like, or you got the 8-track, but now kids are growing up with a smartphone where they don't have that comparison. There's nothing that sticks to them
right?
To say like, wow, this is like revolutionary. But growing up in the 80s, we got exposed to all those milestones.
Exactly.
So that when that game came out, that was a 4-disc game. Like that was like, I remember the CD case was this thick.
Yep.
I remember going to the game store.
Oh my goodness, yes.
That CD case was this thick. I said, what is this? Oh, this, and he goes 4 discs. I said, what?
You're like
4 discs? I said, this is unbelievable. Oh, another one. Metal Gear Solid.
Metal Gear, yes.
A revolutionary part. I don't know if you remember the Phantom Pain.
Yes.
They were like, "Oh, I see you're playing.
Yep.
You have to take out the controller." I said, "This stuff is groundbreaking."
Yep.
Those games stay with you. It's not the graphics. It's like they do something that no one has done before.
Right.
So Final Fantasy VII, just because the original has like a place in my heart that I'm like, that's one of my favorite games of all time, easily. When they originally announced Remake, I was like,
we were like, I was like, oh, snap. And when they announced it, because I don't know if you saw Advent Children, and I was like, oh man, this looks like the actual.
That's right. That's right.
That's crazy.
That's right.
So I was like, this is going to be a beautiful game. This is going to be it.
That's exactly right. And I said, and what's funny too, even before they announced Remake, back in my mind, you're always like, man, it would be cool if they took that and then, because we got the next gen systems, it's like, it would be so awesome to see what they can do with it. And then there started being a little buzz. You hear in the game review sites, they'd be like, oh, it would be kind of dope. And then it made its way. I'm sure Square Enix was like, hey, there's a lot of fans. We may, because at the time they were still releasing Final Fantasy 13.
Right.
I don't know. I played the first 2. I didn't play the third one with Lightning.
Yeah, I didn't like
disappointed.
The third one.
I was disappointed with 13. The first one was okay. I mean, I think that's when they introduced like the stagger system. I believe.
Yes.
So that was like the first showing of the stagger system. I was like, okay, I can see this is pretty cool. But then I never played. That's actually the only Final Fantasy I've never played. I've played every single Final Fantasy except Part 3.
Okay.
For
Gotcha.
13.
Gotcha.
Because I was so disappointed in 2 and the way it was going with the Nobulus Crystallis saga.
The kid.
Trying to tie, like, I don't know. It just never.
Well,
I was disappointed in it.
Well, for some reason, I like 2 better than
than
1.
I like 2 better than 1.
But Lightning Returns was like, this is straight garbage. I don't know.
I just never, and that's the one game I've never played from the Final Fantasy series. So, but anyway, going back, how hyped am I for this one? It's the same level of hypeness, like this whole trilogy, what they're doing with it. With the remake, amazing. I was like, man, but I always thought like, okay, you can't. It's not just going to be a graphical. There's going to be something that has to change. Because everyone who knows the original story, okay, why am I playing this game? If I know exactly what's going to happen,
right?
Am I just playing it just for the graphics? Like just for like, oh, cool, These are just the next-gen graphics.
Right, right.
But if you know the exact plot, there's not that wow factor.
Right.
So
I get you.
When a remake, when they were dropping hints about how remake was going to be, like, you're going to be surprised. Don't expect the same plot. There's going to be some little changes. They don't really reveal too much. And then when you play remake, and you're like, you know, and then you get the point where, okay, everything is taking place in Midgar. Okay, so you're making one game just in Midgar. In the original, you stay in Midgar in the beginning, but it's not as expansive. So so just that alone, you're like, okay, they really have to expand on their plot.
Right.
If they're going to start the first game off in just one city, enclosed. Because I know when when the remake came out, you were like thinking of open world. But then they were like, no, this is just Midgar. Like, dude, this game is going to be massive.
Yeah, and I think you touched up on that, but I'll let you go. I'm going to cut you off.
This game's going to be massive.
Yeah.
So then it's like, okay, this is going to be a rewrite to the plot. I already see it, but it got me. You know, it's one of those things where it's like you don't want them to taint the original formula, because that original holds such a great place in my heart. I still think Sephiroth is one of the best antagonists of any game.
Of all time, man.
Of any game. You know, so when you look at it, you're like, damn, what direction are they going to go with this? And then at the ending, I don't want to say the ending just in case anyone never played Remake, but the ending of Remake, that's when it turned on. That's when it sparked. I kind of have a suspicion of where they're going to go with this. And I'm just going to say one thing. Just because of what Hollywood is doing with multiverse, when you start introducing like, oh, we can go ahead and just go back and rewrite it and then just say this happens in an alternate universe, that basically allows you endless possibilities.
Right.
Endless possibility. You're no longer confined to one universe. It's not like you have to go back and you're trying to, you know, reformulate something that happens in a linear timeline. You can just say, oh, it's an entirely different universe, and then you could connect it in some way.
Right.
You know, so, and that's kind of like what they were alluding to at the end of Remake. And now we finally get the open worlds. This is going to be the first 2 discs.
Now, I'm gonna hold you right there.
Yeah.
Now, just to let you guys know, we had this conversation before this game came out. I mean, the Thinker brought up a lot of good points when it came to, you know, after we played Remake, right? We talked about the open world, the possibilities of what they're gonna do with the game moving forward, and then, you know, and I was just talking to this guy. I was like, man, dude, why don't you just play the lottery, man? I mean, because just about everything that you said, it's here. But go ahead. It's crazy.
D-Nice Contra, that's another one.
D-Nice says Contra was my game.
I think that was another game that growing up as a kid was up down, select left right, A B, select start.
Yes.
That cheat code gets implanted just like Mike Tyson's Punch Out. That's another one. These games, when you look back, put it this way, younger generation looks back and be like, what is this? This is not, you guys played this game? 8-bit graphics?
Yeah, it's almost like LeBron versus Jordan, right?
Right.
We grew up with Jordan.
Exactly.
This generation grew up with LeBron. It like, LeBron's the greatest player of all time, but like, you guys have no idea. Go ahead.
Exactly. But yeah, those games like Contra, even like, Castlevania.
Castlevania, yes. Oh my goodness.
Imagine a younger generation playing like a 2D side-scrolling. They're going to be like, oh, this is whack. This is corny. Like, why am I, this is what you played when you, I'm like, dude, when this came out, this was it, man. This was like, Castlevania. And we could go in and talk about the Switch 2 if you want, and what we discussed, what the possibilities of that are.
Okay.
But, I mean, going back to, let's just stay on Rebirth.
Yeah.
Going back to Rebirth. So again, trying to tie in my original point, there's games that are revolutionary, that are going to stay with you.
Yes.
This game is a retelling of something that really was revolutionary when it came out. This is going to be the first 2-disc game, a next-gen system. That alone differentiates yourself from every other game, because that shows how massive this game is going to be. Mm-hmm. And you would think, wow, this next-gen games are now at $70. This is a 2-disc game. It's still at $70. I would have happily played double. I would have paid $140 just for the standard edition. Because if I'm getting 2 discs, I'm expecting this game to be at least 200 hours.
Okay.
That open world concept that we've been, when it was originally announced, Remake was coming out. Automatically you start thinking riding around in a chocobo. Going around Ragnarok, going around the world. And then they're like, no, it's only going to be in Midgard. And then you're like, oh, okay. I'm still excited. But man, my imagination just went wild.
Yes.
And now we finally get it. Now we finally get the game. They're leaving Midgard, and they're now out into the open world.
Right.
You're not confined. And the thing is, too, I think a lot of critics about the remake, it was very linear. It's kind of linear path, like the remake. Mm-hmm. You know, because right. you can't explore because you're confined in a city, so it's a very linear progress. So that alone, it's going to be a completely different element. Now you're just out into the open world, free to do what you want.
And I'm happy that Square Enix is doing this because, you know, just for that one aspect of that remake game, because you're thinking like, okay, is there more to it, you know, or can there be more to it? And, you know, you're thinking about that, especially if you're a diehard Final Fantasy, game. You're gonna be like, okay, think about 15 when it came out. Yep. You know, now you have 16. Mm-hmm. So would they are they at the round table like, hey, can we throw in that concept in the second game? Here we go. Mm-hmm. Here it is showing up on the screen right now. Mm-hmm. 2 discs. We excited. Oh, yeah. I'm like, yo, this is gonna be crazy.
And I think they timed the release perfectly because there's so many good games coming out this holiday season. I think they timed it like impeccably. February. That gives the gamers, okay, play all your holiday games. Now we're gonna drop the hammer in the beginning of next year. Why would you want to release it holiday season knowing you have a lot of other AAA titles coming out at the same time? That gives people the chance to beat Spider-Man 2, Alan Wake 2, all these other games that are coming out. And those games are still great in their own right. But the magnitude of this game coming out in February, you know, that's going to give you November, December, January, and even, I think at the end of February it's coming out. So I give you most of February to play all these games, your Call of Duties, you know, your Assassin's Creed, all these games are coming out. And then it's like there's not that lull that you get post-holiday.
Exactly. Yep.
Like, I thought the release of Dead Space this year was timed perfectly. That was like a gem. That got timed in the beginning of the year where there was like no games coming out. And me, I've always been a huge when the original Dead Space came out, I was like, this is unbelievable. So when the Dead Space remake came out, I was like, oh, I am getting this. Again, timed perfectly, because there's really no games around that time in the beginning of the year. Mm-hmm. Yep. When that game dropped, I was like, oh, perfect timing. Perfect. The last couple of months, I'm like, oh, there's nothing. There's nothing.
It's just dry,
We've been dry.
So, you know, one last question for you, you know, around Rebirth. Yeah. Are you concerned that they may steer too far from the original, right, so or are you excited with what has been shown and what has been said so far? Because they have been very transparent.
Yeah, they're not gonna reveal the biggest the plot twist. What they're gonna do is it's gonna give you a little bit for the community to speculate,
okay,
to have their theories, because what it does is it's part of their marketing strategy. It builds up the hype, builds up.
Yes.
You know, it's just like a movie that you want to see and you're even before you go to the movies, you start thinking like a mystery movie, like who's the killer, who did it,
right?
Well, how's it, or like a Marvel movie, like man, how's this gonna end? Like I remember when Avengers Endgame came out. You know, are they gonna let Thanos snap the finger? Or are they gonna stay true to because the source material's there?
Yep.
So just same thing. Are they gonna stay true to the source material? So obviously the biggest plot twist was the death of Aerith in the original. That was probably one of, like, if you look at like the top 10 like gaming plot twist, that's up there like number 3 or 2, or I forgot what was number 1. But I remember when that happened, the original game, you were like, what? Okay, first of all, I didn't even get to level 4 of my limit break with her.
Yes, sir.
I've been grinding, trying to get to her, you know. I don't even know who got to a level 4 limit break, because she dies kind of fairly early in the game. And I'm like, wait a minute. That's my healer. Like, what am I doing? What's going on? And she was such a pivotal character.
Right.
That was a huge shock. So I already know you can't duplicate that in this retelling. What do you change? So then I start going on the trailers and start scrutinizing. And I don't know if you want to pull it up right now. Mm-hmm. This is my theory. Without revealing too much from the original remake, there's the end scene where Sephiroth and Cloud are fighting. It's kind of alluded that it's Sephiroth, but he's not in the same timeline. It's the original Sephiroth, but something happens with the what do you call those shadows? That was a new element. That's basically how they're tying this in. You know those shadows you fight?
Yes.
In remake.
Mm-hmm.
Was it Whispers?
Whispers?
Was
yes.
it Whispers?
Something like that. Yeah.
Whispers.
Yes.
It was the Whispers. So when you start playing remake, well, what is this Whispers things? And there's a dialogue in the game in remake where they basically are trying to. The point of the Whispers is to force you to make certain decisions because they need to keep the timeline going as the original. There's scenes, I don't know if you picked up on this, there's scenes in the remake where the Whispers are blocking your path.
Yes.
And they...
Okay. I see where you're going with that.
They're basically... But something happens... I forgot what scene it was. There's something happens where you basically like you fight the Whispers.
Whispers, yeah.
So basically, you're going, and this was actually Square Enix's one of their like slogans for the game, like "Tempt Fate" or something about destiny or fate. Basically, it's like the Whispers are there to basically remind you that no, this is the way you have to make these decisions because this was the original telling of the game in a way. But something happens where you go against fate, and it's almost like the Marvel Cinematic Universe where they explain the multiverse, and if you don't make the same choice, then it splits off
into like
I got you. It splits off. So Sephiroth tells Cloud at the end of the remake, he says something where it alludes to like the choices you made. It split my path in a way where. The original Sephiroth knows that Cloud ends up killing him. But he's like, not this time.
Oh, man.
So it's the original Sephiroth from the game, but it's like he saw the future, knowing that I'm going to die at the hands of this guy. But in the remake telling, he's already seen the paths diverge. So he's like, I'm no longer in that timeline. And he goes, he's alluding to, I'm not going to make the same mistakes. So it's assuming that Sephiroth is going to be even more powerful than the original game because he's already seen his own death. It's almost like Thanos seeing in this Endgame 2 where he sees his head getting chopped off. And his minions are like, sorry. He goes, no, that means I succeeded. But he goes, the stubbornness means I need to erase everyone.
Everyone. and everything.
So he even becomes more diabolic because he saw his original future is that he died. He did what he was supposed to do, but just the fact that the people that were left over were persistent and still fighting, he's like, okay, I've seen my future. I'm gonna eliminate everyone. So now imagine Sephiroth knowing what he knows now. So it's gonna be like, complete retelling of it. That's one of my theories.
Okay.
It's supported by something in the new trailer. I'll let you decide when you want to.
All right, so let's take a look at the trailer. So we're gonna pause this. We're gonna go to the trailer that he's referred that.
Before we get to that, I just want D-Nice's comment. The arcades, just that alone. Are there any arcades anymore?
I don't even know, man. I haven't been to an arcade.
Dude, it is it's not like I remember. I grew up in New York, so arcades are on every street corner.
So D-Nice, are there any arcades where you are at right now? Because I don't think there's any.
I don't know
any here, but I can understand. Yeah, those were the days.
Put the quarter on the screen. I got next.
Yep.
I mean, again, Mortal Kombat 1, 2, Street Fighter.
Street Fighter 2. Dude, it was Street Fighter 2, Mortal Kombat 1.
Revolutionary.
Tekken.
Revolutionary.
RoboCop. The Superman. Dude, there's so many arcade games. It's insane because one of my aunties, she used to own one of those little shops that all the drunks they go to or whatever, and they got the pool hall.
Yep.
So when she had her little arcades in there, man, it was a blast, man. So those were the days, man. He says Ghosts and Goblins was good back in the days, man. D-Nice, what you know about Ghosts and Goblins, man? You know nothing about Ghosts and Goblins. Those were the days, man. We can sit here and we can name a lot of good, Nintendo games that came out, and not just with Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Sega, et cetera, but that's another stream. But those were the days. So in New York, don't see them like that no more. So I guess
I go back to New York all the time, and you don't see them at like the bodegas, and they're not. You go in there, it's like, man, I can't remember the last time I saw an arcade. I remember we used to have this. I grew up in Queens, and we used to have this big arcade place we used to go to. I mean, you walked in there, man, they had Afterburner and all these games. Oh my God. It was like heaven to a kid. After school, you get like $5, 20 quarters. I know the conversion. It's like, oh man, just those were the days. You spend a whole afternoon. Those are fun times, man. And then they had the movie theater right across the street.
Yes. Yep.
Buy one ticket. There's 5 of you. Buy one ticket. Guy goes in the bag, opens up the emergency exit, sneak in the back. Because at the time, it's a budget. it was either the movies, candy, or arcades. So it's like it's a budget.
Yes, and I used, going to the arcades. I don't know if you guys, hated this, but there's one particular game that you wanted to play. There's a line, and then the guy in front has like 40 quarters across the freaking machine. I was like, come on, man, please. So you just step away. Sometimes you don't even want to step away because you don't want to lose your place in line. That's how it was with me growing up when it came to Street Fighter 2. Yeah, when that came out, because that was big. Oh, yeah. Getting the magazines.
Oh, yeah.
Game Pro magazine. I mean, you're just sitting there and you look at, man, I can't wait to play this game. Mom, when are we going to go to White Lake? Can we go to White Lake? Boy, we're not going to White Lake. Blah, blah, blah. Well, can we go next weekend? Yes. And then you scramble up money. You're like, man, I got to save up my lunch money. You know what's in your lunch money? You save up your money.
The other revolutionary thing is that the young generation don't even know about is when Street Fighter 2 was released on the Super Nintendo.
Yes.
That was like, and I remember too, when the price of that thing was like $90. It was crazy.
It was close to that.
It was crazy expensive.
It was.
But think about it. It was like, okay, how much money have I spent in the arcade playing this game? And that was like so revolutionary that was one of the biggest arcade. They brought that idea of you can now play the arcade in your home unlimited
tries. Yes.
You get the cartridge, you stick, and now you're playing Street Fighter 2 at home.
Cartridge.
That was revolutionary.
And and a lot of these, generation gamers today don't know.
No concept of that. No concept.
Those games back then were $60, $60, $70, $80. They were very expensive.
When Street Fighter 2 came out, that thing, it was crazy expensive. I remember like one of my best friends, he was the one to get it. I didn't. My parents were like, nah, yeah, we didn't spend that money. I think the most expensive thing my parents bought me, I remember were the Reebok pumps.
Okay. Oh geez.
Dude, when those kicks came out, I'm like, oh man, I gotta have the pumps. They were a little basketball in the tongue.
Yep.
Like,
we all had.
I remember it was like $130. I remember my father bought it for me. And he was like, I am never spending this much money on you ever again.
Dude, but those were the days, man.
Yeah.
So we're gonna touch up on this trailer. You want to touch up on this?
So going back to the Rebirth, the way I see it going is, so it's like you're gonna need that wow factor as it was in the original game, because Square Enix is not dumb enough to just say, okay, the graphical improvements are gonna be enough. Let's kind of keep the plot the same. It's not gonna work. They're gonna have to change it, but they don't want to alienate the original hardcore like fans of it.
Right.
That they're gonna do like a whole rewrite, and it's gonna be like, I prefer the original better. Like, I wish they didn't change this much about it. My theory is that it's the original Sephiroth. He's because of choices that Cloud made or something happened, it branched off, and Sephiroth, knowing the original timeline, he's not going to make the same mistake. So almost like he's like the Thanos in Endgame 2, where he's even going to be more destructive. And this scene is about, okay, this is Yuffie. She's running away from Sephiroth. So basically Sephiroth destroyed her village. All right, I think that was in the original game, if I'm not mistaken. That's her backstory. She's always had a hatred of him, but in the original game, Yuffie was an optional character. You didn't have to get her.
You didn't have,
You didn't have to get her in order to basically play the rest of the game. This one, your Yuffie is an integral part. It's not going to be an optional character. Now, she's running away because she doesn't want to confront them. I think they're going to replace the death of Aerith with the death of Yuffie, and that is shown at the end of this trailer.
All right, so we're gonna let it play.
No, you can skip this.
You want to skip it? Okay.
Yeah, go towards the end. Keep scrolling. Keep going. Yes. Okay, a little bit back. Right there. Let that play out. And you got the captions on?
Let's see.
Yeah, I think I saw captions on there.
Yeah, it's on. All right, so we're gonna let it play.
You murdered my dad. That's Yuffie.
Burn my village.
Now, this scene, I think, is being replaced, like the original scene when Aerith is, I think, calling on Holy, and Sephiroth comes from behind and stabs her with the sword. I think this is that part of it. Okay, this right here, I think is really why I believe what I believe. Is it says, you know that I killed her. Who's Sephiroth referring to?
Aerith.
Sephiroth is referring to Aerith. So that means, and Aerith is alive right now. He knows he killed her in the original timeline. This is the original Sephiroth. And he's like, what are you doing? Because at this moment in time, Aerith is supposed to be there, not Yuffie.
No, got you.
And he's taken back, like, things are already changing in this universe. He's kind of alluding to saying, you know I killed her. Why? Because what she says is, you murdered my dad. His response is, you know I killed her.
Right.
I think the shock is that Aerith is going to stay alive in this retelling, which leads to what I think is going to happen is what was it called? The Sentra. She was the race of the ancient race. I think they were called the Sentra. I think she was like the last one.
She was like the last.
And she was basically, because she was calling on Holy, and Sephiroth had to kill her because he wanted to call Meteor, and Holy was the counterbalance to that.
Right.
And then that's why the Omega weapons came out to try to protect the planet. If Aerith stays alive, that's the weapon to basically not let Meteor happen. But now we have Sephiroth, who I'm assuming is going to be more powerful because he knows the telling of the original timeline. So now it's gonna. These are just my theories, but all I know, going back to my original point, where you don't want to rewrite the plot so much, where you're like, oh, I could prefer the original. I think if they go the way I think it's gonna go, I'm really excited for it.
Yeah, I think they have to make it telling, that hey, that this is you guys are gonna be blown away by this new. Vision that we're gonna throw out here at you. So again, I'm excited just like you are as well. Just to see how certain pieces of the game are posted in this one here, and we'll see, man. So what's this?
And notice she's using his sword. She's trying to run up on him and stab him in the back, just like he did to Aerith. It's just showing like the little different aspects of it. I'm just very excited for it. I just think it's going to be a great retelling. I'm looking forward to it. Open world concept, that alone, I think is going to be mind blowing.
Got you. And for those of you who are, watching this right now and, hearing our discussion, are you guys excited for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth? Do you have any thoughts? Or any, predictions, drop it in the chat if you have any questions around it, etc. that you guys want to ask the thinker.
We didn't even talk about Zack Flare.
Yeah.
And that's a whole retelling too. The whole him taking Zack's identity and become just like the original, but now Zack's alive. And then at the end of the remake, they show that point where Zack is bringing him. But then they go back to the present, and then Cloud stops.
Right.
And he's like, I just sensed something. Because
that could be... Oh, okay.
So there's a lot of elements where it's showing like a multiverse type of... like a parallel universe type of deal.
Got you.
Because in the original, Zack dies, but in this one, he lives. He ends up killing all the Syndra soldiers,
right.
And brings Zack to safety. In the original... Zack doesn't make it out of there, and then Cloud basically takes on his identity.
Right.
But this one is Zack's alive.
And
look at their own poster. Their own poster is Cloud, Sephiroth, and Zack.
Exactly. Yep.
So that I think they're gonna go the multiverse route, but the great thing I think is just that it's not the big thing is not this is not a different Sephiroth. My theory is I think this is the original Sephiroth from the original timeline, and now he can be even more evil, knowing his fate in the original. And now he's like, imagine someone's telling you basically how you're going to die, what your future is going to be, and now you're like, okay, now I know what to do.
Very, very interesting, guys. I am excited for this one. Loco, welcome to the chat. So we're going to go back up here before we move on. D-Night says, I used to go to the Square back in the 80s to play the arcade.
Yeah, they had a lot of arcades in Times Square.
Yeah. Loco says, I used to go to Golf Island, right? Or Super Arcade. I think that's what he meant to say. Loco, welcome to the channel, man. I appreciate you joining us for our podcast today. D-Night, we used to go to Skate K in the BX. Man, those were the days. So, all right, guys. So we're gonna move on to next topic.
All right,
ready to go. So, when it comes to Xbox Game Pass, with its current state and success, do you think the Xbox subscription service will continue to be the go-to for gaming in the next 5 to 10 years? And also, what about the competition?
I think, you can see how Microsoft is positioning themselves to. They're really promoting Game Pass. They want to go into, I think, an all digital space, and the access. They're looking at it like accessibility wise, to be able to, like, if you need to take a trip, you go to a hotel, the smart TVs have the Game Pass app or something to that effect.
Right.
Where you have access to it everywhere you go, just kind of like a Netflix or any of these TV movie subscription services where, I got Netflix on my phone, I got HBO Max on my phone, I go anywhere. You have a login, password, you need an app, you go in, you start playing. And I think that's the wave of the future. And we're starting to see that, especially with the leak. Well, I quote unquote leak. I don't know if it's done on purpose. Of their new all digital.
Yeah, console. Xbox.
I guess you call it an X cylinder.
X cylinder.
You don't even call it a box anymore. X cylinder. It's adorable.
Oh, you know what? You know what? Just to stop you right there. I was trying to figure out why does he keep saying adorable, but then when I reverted back to the post, the poster, it says adorable at the top. I was like, oh, okay, that's what he meant by that. So I was like, all right, I got you. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, and I think just I think we discussed this before. As far as physical media, just looking at it from like a cost perspective, it makes economic sense to move away from manufacturing discs. They don't manufacture VHS anymore. They don't manufacture 8-track. You look at now everything, like we have Spotify. Who buys CDs? Like, we don't buy CDs. We don't buy tapes. We're not mixing. I remember growing up mixing tapes and recording the radio stations and then mixing my tapes. And,
yeah.
It's like, but then Napster came out. And then I was like, oh, cool. And then, like, what was it? The Zune and I think, was it the Zune? The Microsoft Zune? Like, was it? And then the iPod came out. Mm-hmm. It was like the digital wave of stuff. It's just a natural progression, with technology. Gaming is not going to be no exception. You're not going to say, well, gaming is the only industry where the technology is not going to warrant, we're always going to produce physical games. Maybe, but it's going to be for a select few people. These are going to be the people, I think, in places like maybe underdeveloped countries where they may not have access to internet. Because if you go all digital, especially with the day one patches, like, these games are broken when they release. They release them knowing, like, okay, you need the patch in order to play it. So basically, if you don't have an internet connection, you're buying a broken game. Can't even play it. So now how do you make the substantiation? Well, if we go all digital, how many of our gamers are we going to alienate? Does everyone have internet service? I think we get, however they're running the numbers, they may project it out, forecast it out to say, okay, the way it's going now with the infrastructure, they may look at it like, okay, in maybe 5 to 10 years, it's fair to say 75% of our gamers are going to have reliable internet. 25%, maybe they look at it and say, hey, sorry. If they don't have, because this is the thing, internet service is now considered a mandatory utility, like water, electric, and gas. It's a mandatory utility where it's like, if you don't have, they have federal programs, even for the elderly, where it's free. They come hook it up for free because it's considered like having running water, electricity and gas and sewage and all that. It's a functional utility to our standard of living. Yeah, it's not a standard of living in like a third world country because they're still fighting for clean water. They're not even at the basic level. But for most of the world, internet is now a necessity, really. So the gaming industry is looking at that like, okay, it's fair to say we have a high level of confidence that in 5-10 years, most of our consumers, gamers, are going to. This is not going to be an issue, so we can go all digital. We can save on costs. We don't need manufacturing. We don't need warehouses. We don't need distribution to ship physical discs, which are going to be worthless anyway because you need a day one patch.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? If you don't have an internet, what's the point of having the disc? You try to play it, and it's not even a finished game. It doesn't make any sense. So I think going all digital, subscription-based service like Game Pass, I think it's just a natural wave of the future. I think, and we spoke this on, I think, on our last podcast. Like, I see it where it probably going to be eventually it's not going to be a console. It's going to be, because look where we are now. We have a smart TV that has the built-in Netflix and Hulu apps.
Correct.
You can download the apps on the phone, or you can get like Roku or a Fire Stick.
Right.
So it's gonna morph into like universal peripherals that just give you access to the gaming, whether it be Game Pass, whether it be whatever, and then let the gamer decide what controller they want to use. You know, there's going to probably be these peripheral companies that are going to be like, oh, our controller's the best. All you need is this. As long as you have access to it, it's compatible with this, and it's just like a TV controller. You can have all these different TV controllers, and you just pick whatever one you like the best.
So like with Netflix and, Hulu and all the other subscription services, when it comes to your movies and TV shows, the gaming industry is kind of moving into that realm of things. So again, just like we always talk about, it's just a matter of picking up a controller, right? When you come home, pick up a controller, it's game. So, and, we also talked about, when it comes to consoles, how long they're going to be, relevant.
Relevant, yeah.
So, again, I don't see them going away anytime soon, but eventually.
I don't see it soon. I just think that you have to start somewhere in any kind of shift. I think we're starting to see the early stages of the shift with Game Pass. They're heavily promoting it. I think this is going to be kind of, because the thing is, the business model exists with Netflix and what they did to Blockbuster, and it's just a natural course of progression with like the convenience of it. People, why are you going to wait for delivery of a game with a potential for delay when you can play it right at midnight, their release?
Right.
And it's expected that the game is going to have the patch already. You get to play it right away. People argue about, well, I like to keep it for resale value. I see places like GameStop. They're going to be like the Blockbuster. They're gonna just die out. It's gonna be more of like an online store. Brick and mortar stores, nah. Same thing with arcades. They're dead. You don't go to they don't have arcades
anymore. That's right.
Brick and mortar is dead. Retail is dead. That's just the way most businesses are. Everything is online and convenience, fast, digital. That's just the way of the future.
Yeah, and just to reiterate it, again, the digital future is coming.
Oh, it's already here.
It's already here. It's coming. It's just, like you said, it's just naturally progressing into where it's just going to be there.
But what Microsoft is doing is they're trying to establish a foundation that they want to be the premier provider of. They want to have the biggest library of the best games.
Well, just hold that thought, because we're going to get into the next. Because I want to get your thoughts on that. And I know these guys, if you're watching, we want to get you guys' opinion on that as well. So let's go ahead and end that one. So with Game Pass, it does have value. There's some success with it, right? It's value for the gamer, but not for the business aspect of it. Could you touch on that?
With the physical media you're talking
about? Well, the value of the subscription service.
Oh, the value of the subscription service.
Game Pass,
All right, so what I see is the moves that Microsoft is making, and even Sony too, because Sony has acquired some studios over the years. It's a lot. Again, going back to, we did the other podcast talking about this Activision deal.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the Call of Duty and the Blizzard, like those are massive generating money products. It's the talent. Because when you look at Microsoft, I think they're going to have the same challenges as what Netflix is going through. And what I mean by that is, so when you say, okay, is it going to go the way of Netflix and all these subscription services where, okay, like now, where can I watch the Marvel movies? Okay, I have to subscribe to Disney Plus. You have a certain type of thing you want to do, you have to go to that subscription service. So with Game Pass and the acquisitions, so you say, how does it correlate? I think they're trying to position themselves where Netflix now is bleeding a lot of money because a lot of their content that got people to subscribe to them originally, all these studios aren't pulling their stuff from their library. And it's like, why are we going to pay Netflix to show when we can just develop our own app? So Netflix now has pumped a lot of money into developing original content. So what does that look like for the equivalent in the gaming industry? In-house AAA games, not using third-party developers. Does Microsoft consistently produce in-house AAA games? That's a question for you.
Oh, a question for me? Not many. Not many. I mean, they have a lot of studios. First of all, but the amount of content that they have is not a lot. It's not a lot at all. For them making their own original AAA content. No.
Which would be the equivalent of a big budget Netflix produced movie that is not even shown in the theaters, which that's how movies make their money.
Mm-hmm.
If you put it on a subscription service like Netflix, so you're producing multi-million-dollar movies, but there's no additional revenue from it because you just buy a subscription and you have access to it. So someone like in Game Pass, it's, okay, I'm spending this much to access Game Pass. What's their library consist of? Well, now, if you do not own the rights to those games, what's to stop the developers like Rockstar that just came out and making their own app or their own platform to say, well, if you want to play our games, if you want to play Red Dead Redemption, if you want to play Grand Theft Auto, you have to now, same thing as we have Peacock, we have Hulu, we have Netflix, HBO Max.
Right.
We have all these because these companies wised up and they're like, why are we putting our best content on one platform and paying them, they probably get a little percentage or whatever. Like, no, let's bring back our stuff and charge a reasonable price because it's not, say, hypothetically speaking, say, why spend $30 a month for a massive library where I may only watch 1 or 2 shows or a couple of movies? Take that and let me pick which apps I want to play. Because, like, say if like I only watch Marvel movies, then I'm only going to get the Disney app, and it's not going to be $30 a month. It's gonna, like, Netflix is like $25 a month now. It's going to be $7 a month,
right?
Because the content is much more specialized,
right?
So someone like with Rockstar just came out a few days ago, and they started putting up their old Grand Theft Auto, and it's only like $6 a month. So now you're like, if you're a gamer, it's like, if all I play is sports games, imagine if Electronic Arts said, you know what? Why put our stuff on Game Pass? Let's just make our own and charge people $8 a month, and they get to play the newest basketball, football, anything. So what Game Pass, what they see is like, oh crap, we need to be able to develop. We can't rely on these, because they can then just pull their stuff once the contract expires. And now we're stuck, same position that Netflix is stuck in. they're pumping massive amounts of money to try to bring people onto Netflix, and these are just like these movies are not even shown in the theaters because it's part of their subscription service.
Right.
So they're losing a lot of money that way.
So that put a lot of pressure on Microsoft at that point in time. So let's say if these publishers say, "Hey, we're going to do our own thing," right? Like you said, they pull out.
We've already seen it.
Then what do we do from here? After those like you said, those contracts expire. What do we do now with Game Pass? Right now, we have to create original AAA content to put into the service to maintain the subscribers.
That's right.
And gain new subscribers, et cetera, et cetera. So that's huge if that's the case, and if it comes to fruition. Publishers like Ubisoft, Capcom. One of my favorites. With Resident Evil,
and that's why I made the point last podcast is the acquisition deal is for talent. It's not for the product. It's for talent because these are the best coders in the world. These are the best gaming coders, gaming minds, gaming creativities in the world to be able to produce these games that generate billions of dollars. There's not that many of these people that exist in the world. These are the best of the best. So Microsoft wants that deal for the talent because I think they know we need the best gaming minds just in case we're left in-house.
Right.
At least we've bought the people to basically make the games for us, not rely on all the studios and saying, okay, we'll hash out a contract where you can access your game here and we'll give you some royalties on the back end or whatever. It's like, no, we want to buy you out because we just want to be able to create our own games.
Right.
And keep it in-house. So, and that's one thing that they've never been successful at compared to someone like Sony and Nintendo. Nintendo got Mario. I mean, those gaming empires were just Mario and Zelda,
Metroid.
Like those. I mean, you're not going to compete with something like that. Sony and out like Last of Us, Spider-Man. Those games are really what get people to be like, okay, this is what I want to play. I mean, what's Microsoft's flagship? Is it Halo? And it hasn't even, the new one hasn't even come out.
Halo, yeah. Well, Halo Infinite, from what I know, is the last.
Yeah, I mean, what would be
the newest one that's out? So, I don't see anything being equivalent.
Do they have like a Spider-Man 2 equivalent as far as that magnitude?
No.
This is what I'm saying, and that's just one example. And Last of Us.
No.
That's what I'm saying. So you're going to need in-house developing to be competitive. Even if Sony never does like a Game Pass type of deal, even if they never migrate to that, just because they consistently produce first-party AAA titles, they may say, we don't even need it. Game Pass, I think they're trying to position themselves where they want the rights to have these exclusive AAA titles. And even go back to the Activision deal where the CMA is putting the kibosh on it.
Yeah.
What I think is that they got a little too greedy. I think originally, even whatever promises they told Sony, greed, they're going to be like, no, we want exclusive rights. And I think nothing would have stopped them from pulling it off of Sony's platform, and say, no, if you want to play Call of Duty, if you want to play Diablo, you can only access it through Game Pass or the Xbox or whatever. And I think they got a little too greedy in that. I still think their number one goal was to get the talent, but their number two goal was they want to basically get all the money. Like as far as like, but we talked about this earlier, is that how do you then, you can't force a gamer's arm that if they're a Sony person and be like, oh crap, if I want to play Call of Duty, I'm forced to now go over to Microsoft. First of all, I think that's just bad business because you're alienating a lot of your revenue stream. Like the cause of that, say arguments like half the people play on Sony and they're spending all this money in microtransactions for like a game like Diablo that's generating so much money, and now you're just going to basically say, no, in order to continue playing, you have to come to us. And then it's expected that we're going to keep on making the same money we did. No, that's not going to work.
No, it's not realistic. And shout out to Loco 209. He did. I was talking to him yesterday in regard to this as well, this topic, and he says not. It's the technology. Especially like for Call of Duty.
Yeah.
They have that as well, so that's a big piece of it. So to build that game within whatever the technology is to keep it going the way it is, and again, Call of Duty is one of those games that makes a whole lot of money, right? And to me, in the very beginning, I was like, this doesn't make any logical sense if they were to make it exclusive,
right,
to their to the Xbox platform. I'm like, you're gonna lose out of you can gain all that money back, instead of just leave it where it is and be done with it. You would think that would be a smart business move, but these are the business minds that sit at the round table, and someone is in the air like, hey, let's do this, but we don't know what that is. We don't know what those conversations are like. So.
And then looking at it from big picture stuff, did you want to stay on this topic?
Yeah, we can stay on the topic, but I want to kind of move on.
All right. Go ahead.
Because we kind of skipped around a little bit, but it's okay. So before we move on, let's go to the chat. Loco, he says, well, actually, D-Nice says, I send you a tweet for both on that. Okay, so D-Nice, we will bring that up at the end of the podcast here. So thank you for that. So Loco says, so a select few can own it all company-wise. It will be whatever price they want to charge
what he's
you.
Alluding to is like, that's why monopoly and antitrust laws exist, because they want to basically have control of all of this stuff. And that's why they're facing these oppositions in court, for these reasons. Is competition is healthy for an economy. You can't have, with the exceptions of utility companies and things like that, but you need competition. Competition begets creativity and just fair practices for the consumer. If you have a monopoly in anything, ultimately the consumer is the one that suffers if they don't have a choice, so yeah, I mean, and that's why we're putting our faith in the court, in the judiciary process, to ensure that someone like Microsoft doesn't get too big in this regard, where, do you see it like, oh man, if I want to play a game, Microsoft is the only place to go.
Right.
It's not going to be good at all.
So do you think with Microsoft's approach of trying to acquire a lot of these, studios and big companies like Nintendo, they're trying to eliminate the competition because they know their direction: cloud, streaming, mobile, PC, right?
Yeah.
So do you think that could be their approach, to try to break all that in so there's less competition?
Well, I think Microsoft just tried to use the strategy where they're such a behemoth, $2 trillion company. They're such a behemoth that I always thought that this was always a side project for them. Again, this is only 6% of their total revenue stream. This is nothing to them. If this fails, if they end up, and those leaks, if it's alluded to, like, we can exit from the gaming industry, right? Phil Spencer was talking about that. People are like, what? Why would he create? I'm like, when you look at Microsoft, to them, this is like nothing. If they have to exit the gaming industry, they're like,
Well, okay. A lot of gamers out there are not educated. They don't know that.
They don't know that.
They don't know that.
A lot of the people, they just think like, they think Microsoft Xbox, and they're like, there's no way they can just pull their participation in the industry. I'm like, it's not like Sony, the Sony PlayStation, even though Sony makes TVs, they make a lot of electronics, what they get out of the PlayStation is much more significant from a total revenue and because the asset class of Sony is not it's not an apples to apples comparison. With Microsoft, it's like if they have to exit, it doesn't even hurt their bottom line. if Sony were to say we're going to end the PlayStation, that's going to hurt their bottom line. Mm-hmm. So for them, it's like, oh, well, it was an experiment. We tried to go kind of like bull rush. Let's just buy everyone out type of strategy because we're so big. Who's going to challenge us?
Right.
You see what I'm saying? And if it doesn't work, if it fails in the courts or if they get pushed back, it's like, so what? They, and I brought up the point the other day with their CPO leaving, which even though he's not in the gaming department, he's more on really the big money side with Microsoft Windows. Those people, Phil Spencer's the CEO of Microsoft Gaming, so I'm sure they're playing golf together. So you have a guy that's been in the company for 20 years, who's the CPO. He has a lot of pull in that company. He's leaving, and then it just so happens that Phil Spencer's like, oh, we also may be leaving if things don't turn the direction
that they want it to go. Right.
You see what I'm saying? So it's like he could be losing his staunch supporter in the C-suite.
Wow.
This guy, this is like board of director type of level, even though he's not on the board of directors. But the CPO left. Phil Spencer's the CEO of the Microsoft Game Department. So imagine the guy on the inside is like, no, I got your back. Even though this is kind of like a project, you haven't been really turning a profit. You're third in sales. Console wars, you've already admitted you're done. You were defeated. Hey, Game Pass is not working out. Things are going bad. And the guy's like, no, I got your back. And then your friend in the C-suite up at top leadership is like, I'm out. Well, do you, and this is just speculation. Now, do you have that same support? Or maybe Phil is like, hey, you know what? We gave it our best shot. Or do we throw a Hail Mary and do a deal like Activision? $69 billion. That's not chump change. So people are like, damn, why are they worth that much? No, they're not worth that much as of right now. But again, if they're going to heavily promote going all digital, going Game Pass subscription, they need in-house talent. They're looking at the companies that produce the most profitable games. Those are the people we want. So, I mean, I think this is kind of like, it's all or nothing. I think these deals are really like, they're really, because they know they can't go head to head from a quality perspective with Nintendo and Sony as far as like the quality of the console and the quality of the games.
Right.
They have to think outside the box. No pun intended. They have to think outside the box in a way where it's like, what do we see the future and where do we want gamers to gravitate towards? That accessibility, Game Pass. And then they see like, okay, Netflix did this successfully, but now they're facing a lot of challenges because the content creators are leaving.
Right.
And now they're forced to pump massive amounts of money. And I'm sure Microsoft is like, no, we're not going to go for that. You're not going to invest all this money into this and then come back 10 years later and be like, oh, we need to invest more because all of our developers, the people that are on the platform, they decided to make their own app and pull all the games. That's not going to happen. That's not the plan.
Oh man, this is going to be very, very interesting moving forward. So let's go back to the chat here. We don't want to, alienate you guys. You guys are a part of the discussion. So if you have any questions and thoughts, put them in the chat. Okay, where do we leave off here? So Doko says, if that's so, what's to stop them, the coders, to do their own thing, their own app?
Well, these when you're talking about these big deals, they have non-compete clauses. They can easily quit, but then they have non-compete clauses where they can't go ahead, and they may actually own when they buy these. Say a company like Activision or whatever, they also buy the codes themselves, the proprietary information that make the games what they are, like a gaming engine, like in a Unreal 5, like a coder, a software engineer that works at Unreal or what's the company that owns them? I forgot. They can't say, well, I quit. I know how to make the Unreal 5 engine, or I know how to make it. I'm going to go ahead and now make my own thing. No, when it comes to these things, these are proprietary pieces of information. Same thing with games. the coders are going to be prevented from saying I quit and then making my own thing using that same. They're going to have to make it straight from scratch, and they're probably not even going to have the resources to do that, and not be as successful, because what's being the successful product is using that original code of information. So with the non-compete clauses, it could get very technical. But yeah, they don't make these deals with the risk of people jumping ship.
Right.
And then making their own. And then now you just develop a new source of competition.
Right. And I think I touched up on that in one of my streams as well with the non-compete clause.
Yeah.
But I also hear rumors.
That's how these deals are structured. It's insurance. It's protection.
Exactly.
They're not that stupid to make these deals, and then all of a sudden, everyone all the best minds you've just hired say later.
Deuces.
I mean, you can't. Again, it's slavery has ended, so you can't force someone to work, but they won't be able to go and make the same product.
Correct.
So what are they going to do? How are they going to make money?
Local says compete, laugh out loud. They just buy market share. So why would it matter? So I think what you're saying is that's pretty much what Microsoft is doing, right? Is that what you're talking about, Loco? We're buying up these studios? Let me know. Well, let us know. He says our judges are corrupt. It's been proven that the money controlled these judges. 100%, man.
That's a whole other conversation.
Yeah, that's.
But we can talk about that to death. That's more getting into the political.
And Local, we agree with you. Trust me. He also says so. Bitpocket can just strong arm the name of competition. They should have been able to compete with the pockets by being creative and not buying market share. So I think we're on the same page here, right? Because
actually, my argument is that their goal to buy these companies is not market share. It's for the talent, because I think if they're going to go strictly Game Pass, they need the best and the brightest minds, software developers, to make in-house triple. They don't want to be reliant on other creators or other gaming
the third parties.
They don't want to be reliant on that, and that's what the challenge is. Like someone like Netflix is facing, is that when you see all these apps, everything's in house. Disney, everything's in house. Star Wars, Marvel, National Geographic, they control all the content. You go to Hulu, they have a lot of original programming. It's in house. Amazon Prime, a lot of it's in house. You know, they have like some old movies, or they have the rights to certain TVs and movies are accessible to many platforms. But how do you get the subscribership?
Right.
How are you going to get the gamers to be like, oh man, I want to play this game. I can only play it on Game Pass. Or is it a game that could be on multiple platforms?
Right. So as of right now, Game Pass pretty much houses, their first party, the second party, pretty much all third party, and some indie titles as well. So to go back to what we was talking about earlier, if these studios and publishers decide to take their catalog and move away, now here you go. That's pressure on Microsoft. Now what do we do? They got to come back to the boardroom and be like, hey, what do we do now?
Yeah.
Right. So we're gonna have to put some. Now they're gonna have to put their first party studios to work.
They got to.
They got to put them to work to put content into Game Pass to keep those subscribers.
They got it. Yeah, I mean, they've already admitted that their gaming side of the business.
Well, we're just speculating, guys. If that happens, if Capcom or Ubisoft or EA decides to do their own type of Game Pass service, subscription service, and they pull their catalog out of Game Pass and go their own way. Now Xbox, it's been dampened now. I mean, they're gonna have to say, oh snap, what do we do? We're gonna have to now create content, to retain our subscribers, et cetera, et cetera. They're gonna have to show up. If not, then Microsoft Game Pass is just gonna be another subscription service.
It's just gonna be another subscription service where it's gonna be like, do I want to spend $25 a month to play to access their library, which I may only play 2-3 games from, or again, am I like a sports nut? Hey, EA has their own subscription. Look at, again, going back with Rockstar. If Rockstar says, we have a much more reasonable price structure where you can access the next Grand Theft Auto, the next Red Dead 3, and whatever else they make. You don't have to go to Game Pass. It's not going to cost you $25 a month,
and it's all day and date.
It's gonna be and going back, and I think just the way the future is again. Once the infrastructure's there, to say that we're not limited by the console that's in your house. It's our servers, in our that we're developing these games on our supercomputers. So imagine like someone like Rockstar, where they make the next Red Dead and the next Grand Theft Auto, and they're not limited to the processing power of a PS5 or an X cylinder, and they got these supercomputers, and they're like, not only are we only going to charge you $7 a month to play these games, but it's going to be like something that you've never played before, because now we're no longer limited on the home console. All you got to do is log in to our app and you play directly from our own servers. And this game is built on our own machines, maintained on our own machines.
Yep.
And I sincerely think that's the way it's going to go.
Okay, so Local says, they were not creative. They bought that market share. What about Rare? Man, we haven't heard anything from Rare. Rare. I don't
know what it means.
Rare does Sea of Thieves, right?
Oh, it's a gaming studio.
Yeah, it's a studio that's up under the Microsoft umbrella. Now, Sea of Thieves is one of my favorite games. I like playing it. Me and the guys, we played it. He says, and every other creator they have brought so far from their history of managing all that, what gives hope that will change. Microsoft said in their own document that they are bigger than the other services, EA and Ubisoft. Yeah, because they pretty much came out and said, hey, they're not competition like Sony and Nintendo and Apple and Google is their main competitors. I think we're on the same page there, because they did say that part of their direction is moving into the mobile market, the PC market. So they're done with the console pretty much.
Yeah,
minute defeat with the console piece of it.
But that's what I meant by like this may have always been a side project for them. It was kind of like, let me stick my toe in the pool, see what ripples can I create, and if it didn't work out, it's like, oh well. Again, it's only 6% of their total revenue. It's small potatoes for them.
Local says, then it would be data access in the future that will sell us. Will they do it now? Really? The difference is between haves and have-nots. Internet as an essential service still has that gap. I'm pretty sure we touched on a lot here. Hold on, let me see. I mean, is there anything else that you want to touch on before we get to the last thought?
We could go to whatever else you want to talk about.
Now, there's one thing that you wanted to touch on, that you mentioned, if I threw it in the arena here, and that's the Nintendo. With Nintendo and the rumors of the Switch 2, and
I'm excited for this. I'm just looking. My imagination runs wild, man.
Well, here's where I'm confused now, because It was the original article that I read. It was like on par with the PS4, Xbox One, and then when you shared with me with the PS5, Xbox Series, then I saw the article. I was like, what? And then I saw another one that came out that said, I think it was from IGN or someone, and it's like it was on par with the Xbox One,
the processing capabilities,
PS4. Yeah. So I'm confused. So I'm like, so what are your thoughts around the Nintendo Switch, man? You think Nintendo is like let us get a piece of the pie?
See, the thing with Nintendo's very. I mean, the thing is with Nintendo is they kind of. I mean, I understand like Commodore 64 and Atari, like they were the originators of like gaming, but then like when Nintendo dropped, that was really they were the father of gaming. You know, when the original Nintendo system came out. You know,
I mean, there's no doubt. There's no doubt in that, man.
They have the cornerstone for gaming, but when the PlayStation came out and they went, I mean, I know there was like the Sega CD before that, you know, the attachment to the Sega Genesis, but then when Sony PlayStation came out, that was revolutionary. I think Nintendo was wise to see the direction it was going as far as like. You know, Super Mario, Duck Hunt, all Donkey Kong, all these games, it wasn't like that hardcore, like graphical fidelity or like really games where like going to the horror genre, like brutal action games. Nintendo kind of said, okay, I can see when Sony PlayStation came out, and then Resident Evil again. That was a big turning point. And like, wow, we have a system that now we're able to make these type of games.
Right.
You know, I understand like they had Ghouls and Ghosts and Castlevania, and that was like their horror. That was like the most extreme it got. But then you started getting into these consoles where now we have the capability of making it much more real. And Nintendo probably took a step back and be like, okay, do we want to get into this space? First of all, can our console even do it? Or do we stay with the family-friendly aspect? And I think that's what they've always been good at. They've been great on the innovation side for they've been good on the innovation side for getting it's a great console to use for families.
Right.
The market share for them for that side, I think, was brilliant. They didn't want to directly compete with Sony as far as we're going to make an equivalent console just as powerful, and we're going to have these like Last of Us type of games. We're going to have these like really graphically intense, like most of the game, like Mario Kart, super fun. Like they're going to keep it in those family-friendly elements to it, which I think was great. The portability of the Switch.
Right.
This could be really exciting if they go in the direction where they could now say, okay, the Switch 2, when we come out and say, this is going to be a next-gen system that can produce the same graphical performance as the PS5 or the Xbox, but we're not going to go we're not going to go the hardcore gaming route. We're going to take our original classics that we know and love.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm sure you've seen the fan-made Super Mario on Unreal 5. This is fan-made. Imagine the geniuses at Nintendo and the resources that they have to say, wow, a fan made this? That's pretty good. Okay, let's now show the world what we can do. If they make a Super Mario Brothers that is like next gen, I'm talking about like next gen. And just looking at that fan-made creative video, I will buy the system just for that one game. Just because they have games where, again, they're the fathers of gaming. These games will never go out of style. Super Mario, Donkey Kong, Metroid. I was talking to him the other day. Imagine making a Metroid Prime, but in a Dead Space setting.
That would be crazy, man.
And you have now the hardware to do it.
That would be insane.
If they enter this space, I think it's going to create massive ripples. If they shift a little bit away from like the family friendly element, and now they say, okay, we now are producing a system that it's going to be like you're playing full motion video. That's going to be the gameplay. So the Mario movie came out. That's going to be the gameplay. It's like, okay, that's going to be absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous.
That would be insane, man. Well, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what.
I mean, if that
Nintendo
that Switch comes out, and if that has if that's next gen, like if that's PS5 levels or like high end PC levels, that could be a big game changer. That's going to show a shift in it. They can still keep the family friendly stuff, but I'm talking about the graphical fidelity and the performance. It's going to be unbelievable.
Logo says, I mean, Microsoft tried to force all this before with the first console after the 360, Xbox One. Their reaction to some not having the same access to internet. We all know how that went. Yeah, the Xbox One, if that's what we're talking about, to me, I thought that was a disaster. The whole DRM situation, and I forgot what my man, he came out and said, hey, if you can't afford the Xbox One, then here's the 360.
Oh, yeah.
That pissed a lot of people off. I'm like, dude, what are you talking about?
Even with the X cylinder, they made a comment saying it's the same great price as was it $499, but it's like, how's it the same great price if you don't get the hard drive? If it's an all digital, how you're saying, wouldn't it be cheaper? How are you charging the same amount?
These are the great minds, man. And some of us pick up on that, some don't. He says, if Nintendo brought out a system as powerful as the new other systems, it would be a wrap.
I'm telling you. I will.
Loco! Yes, sir. Let's go.
You know what? And I've always, I think we agree on this. The games is what drives the players to the console.
Yes, the software. Yep.
Think about it. You don't buy the console just to have it collect dust. You buy the console to be able to play the games you want. So if that console does not have the ability to play that game, then you're not buying the console. I'm telling you, if Nintendo makes a next-gen system where it's going to be like next level Duck Hunt or next level Mario, next level Donkey Kong, next level Castle.
You think it would be portable? You think they'll keep that same concept?
I think if they have the ability, if they have the technological ability, I think that would be groundbreaking. I think that would be groundbreaking, man. That would be a milestone in the history books as far as game talk. Going back to our previous conversation, these things that were groundbreaking, that would be a groundbreaking point where you can look back and be like, when that came out, that changed the whole game. The portability. If you keep the portability aspect,
because you think about the iPhone 15, right? iPhone Pro 15, it's outperforming these consoles now.
I know.
So if you have the great minds at Nintendo come together, like, how can we put all this together and stamp our position? Man, it's going to be very, very interesting, in that space, though. Now Microsoft, in the leaks, the documents that came out, it was shocking to me to read Phil Spencer's statements saying that if they don't move past the console, if they're not able to move past the console with what they're trying to do, they're going to move out of the gaming space. I'm like, to me personally, I don't see that happening.
No, I don't.
Because I even though you have been successful in the console space, you still have PC.
Yeah. Right.
That PC is not going anywhere. And then you have mobile. If you want to get into that space, you're going to be competing against Apple and who else?
For the mobile gaming.
For mobile gaming,
I'm not really too sure who the main competitors are on that, but it's such a who does Candy Crush? Because I know that's
King. So that would be theirs.
That's theirs
now.
Yeah. So Yeah, I could see. I mean, again, they're looking at it just what would make the most money, but then I don't know. Sometimes like I said, my imagination runs wild, and I look at something like a Ready Player One future where does it shift into just, especially with the dawn of AI, like the who knows what's possible as far as how this is going to go. Is it going to be where people just want to escape reality? They want to put on a headset. They want to just like have this augmented reality. And then who is the mega corporation behind it? Is Microsoft trying to position themselves to be that company where they're controlling the augmented reality world? These may be just the little baby steps. We're probably such a long ways away from that ever happening. But business, companies are in the business of making money. It's again, it's not really such a concern for them if this doesn't play out the way they want it. But they can also be doing it for other reasons, like for their like Windows and business, like the Windows side of business. Because again, these developers at these gaming, they're still software engineers. If things don't work out in the gaming industry, they can still use their talents and help with their Windows products. So it may not be a loss for them at all if things don't. If they just say, hey, you know what, I'll let Nintendo and Sony battle it out. We're not in this space anymore.
Right.
And then maybe someone else new comes along in the future based on what the technology. Because the thing with AI is like writing these codes now. It's gonna, first of all, it may put a lot of people out of work. And how powerful these AI systems could get. It basically, you may be able to have the AI produce just AAA games at a fraction of the cost. So this, man.
And when you talk about AI, Microsoft.
This is such a lot of speculation. You try to think of what the future is going to be. Like me, I can only look at it from like just a financial perspective. Me as a gamer, I have my desires. Like, oh, this would be cool. Just as a pure gamer. But then looking at it like just from like the finance and business perspective of it and trying to identify market trends, it's you can make a fair analysis to say this is probably where it's going to go. It may not line up to my desires as just a regular person, because again, you have to look at it just from a purely like financial motivation. Does this make business sense? So I look at something like Game Pass, where it's like, what are the financial challenges they are facing? What do these acquisitions mean? Looking at it from like just from a purely business mind, not looking at it from a gamer perspective and be like, oh man, I hope they buy this and I hope they produce this game and I hope that those reasons are not being had at the high level. The high level is about how to position ourselves to be more powerful, make the most amount of money, and have the most control. Those are the questions being asked. Not, oh yeah, we want to buy the game because we want to give the consumers the best possible gaming experience. Exactly. That's not that lie. Don't believe the hype, man.
Yeah, and and I think Loco had mentioned that yesterday as well. So we're gonna lead over into our final question here. To you and also to those of you who are watching. So, how do you see the state of gaming shaping up within the next 5 or 10 years?
5 to 10 years is still short term. I still see I see a PS5 Pro. I see probably a PS6. I don't see the death of consoles in 10 years. So I say a PS6 by that time. Xbox, same thing. I think just they're going to promote, it's going to be more subscription based. And I think the first step, I think Rockstar just did a few days ago. They're making their own subscription service. I wouldn't be surprised if all the major developers, Capcom, whatever, come out with their own subscription-based service where it's going to be very affordable and you can access it through there. If you want to play the Street Fighters, you got to go through Capcom. So it's like I see that happening in 10 years' time, and I think it's just going to be a lot of trial and error.
Right.
There's going to be a lot of trial and error, and because this is kind of like I don't want to say it's untested because the business model exists on the TV and movie side with all we've seen with the Netflix and all that.
Right.
Gaming is it has its own unique challenges. So I would say the main drive is going to be like going an all digital. I think the shift we're going to see is going to be mostly digital. Physical media, I think, is going to be less and less. I actually wouldn't be surprised within 10 years if GameStop is no more.
So in 10 years, you think GameStop is going to...
Yeah, I think in 10 years, GameStop is done. I think within that time frame, I know we discussed this before with like they had the spike in their price share, but that was because of financial instruments being manipulated. That wasn't the value of their company. It was like $400 a share. I think they're the Blockbusters of the gaming world. I think eventually they're going to go out of business, or they may just morph into just online presence only. But when you have the PS Store, Game Pass, why do you need GameStop? Why do you need to access the game through another platform? Like, I know, GameStop tried to do that a couple of years ago. They were like, "Oh, we're going to try to do an online type of."
Right.
No. Yeah, you're way too late to the party, man. The dance is almost over. You're trying to get into the door. I gotta buy a ticket.
My heart goes out to my gaming heart goes out to those physical media collectors, those who like to buy the physical media.
Well, we discussed this. I could see it shifting into like a more like a art collector world, where you're gonna have those people that they want the physical stuff, they want the collector's items, they want the memorabilia. And I can see GameStop almost becoming like the eBay of game.
Yeah. Makes sense, right? Yeah,
I can see that. But it's going to be like a niche. It's going to be a small niche.
Okay. All right. So that's going to be the end of our discussion for today. I hope you guys enjoyed. But before we go, D Nice. He shot us a little tweet.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna read it here. It says PlayStation CEO claims PlayStation Plus is a more meaningful subscription than Xbox Game Pass. So I'm gonna read what it says here. It says Sony Interactive Entertainment and PlayStation CEO Jim Ryan claims that PlayStation Plus is a more meaningful subscription service than Xbox Game Pass. It says here during the Q&A session, I don't want to read all this verbatim. Just try to pick out the. It says during the Q&A session with analysts revealed via leak FTC versus Microsoft court case documents, Jim Ryan was presented with a question regarding the Xbox Game Pass business model and how it posed challenges for Microsoft when it came to bringing AAA titles and budgets of $100 million or more to the subscription service. Now, before we move on with that, let's keep reading. Ryan was asked whether Microsoft would need to provide minimum revenue guarantees to publishers if it wanted those titles on Xbox Game Pass, or whether it would need to go out and buy more assets like Activision to put on its platform. The PlayStation president responded by saying that he's certain that Microsoft has already attempted to offer publishers a minimum revenue guarantee and that it did not work at all. He claimed that this, in turn, has driven the software giant to make large acquisitions.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, and again, the pricing what challenge? Again, we don't know the details of these contracts, but I just know from generally speaking, and it could be unique to them, but generally speaking, you have the most control and you can make the most money when it's in-house development. When you start outsourcing, which would be the equivalent of getting a third-party developer or third-party developer to make, to say, okay, you make the superior product. We would like your product being sold in our stores, i.e. Game Pass. And then seeing how this deal is structured, man, we're only making 3%. Like first of all, the overhead involved could just kill your profits. Again, people are always thinking like, man, if I had the ability to make my own product and keep it in-house and maintain full control over distribution, how it's made, the timeline, everything about it, and every dollar that is being spent from the consumer on our platform, we get 100% share of it. We're not chopping it up because so many hands are in the cookie jar. I mean, yeah, I'm sure these games, I think I read something about those AAA games are so much money to produce and make and put on. Again, so it's like you want to maximize profit, minimize losses. You got to keep it in-house. Those big acquisition deals, I think, and that's why I mean, it supports what I was saying, that you want the people that make these games is really what's the most valuable thing.
Exactly. And I was just thinking
they want the people. They got the people. Even if it completely dissolves the product, you have the people that created it in the first place. You keep it in-house and you say, okay, we're going to make a whole new game. It's going to be groundbreaking. We have the creative minds to do it. Let's go. And they don't have to answer to anyone else. They're not reliant on a third-party developer. Everything's kept in-house. I'm sure they want to come to the point where Game Pass is like, look, we are producing the AAA games. You can't access them anywhere else except our platform. We are not beholden to anyone. We produce them. We have full control. It's there. It's guaranteed to be good. And if they charge a reasonable price, then they can really start making some money. But with the way it's working now, because I think they're so far behind in the town, because they don't produce consistent AAA titles, their best move is to just go out and buy it. But the cost of doing these deals is a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
It's a lot, and that's what I'm saying. Like, that's why I'm really interested to see what happens with Phil Spencer, because the CPO leaving Microsoft, I don't know what the shakeup is. There's a shakeup at the higher levels of Microsoft, and again, this is a side project for Microsoft. The new CPO could come in, talk to the board of directors and be like, let's exit. We're done. Let's stop wasting time on this.
Yeah, because all you gotta do is just look at the history.
Yeah, he's like,
how it's doing now.
Yeah,
has this generated anything for us?
Does this hurt our bottom line at all?
There you go.
Talking about less than 6%. Nothing. And they, even though it's 6% of the revenue stream, but that's just a very simplistic way of looking at it. They look at it also as like, how much manpower and resources are we even spending on this? Can their talents be better utilized?
Somewhere
so
else.
They got this talent. You're like, oh, you graduated top of the line, you're software pro, blah blah blah. All right, why are you working on games? Screw that. Hey, we got this new Windows product. Come over here. Like that, what you're doing is small potatoes. Like, welcome to the big leagues. Like, we produce Windows. Like, this is nothing to us.
Like, look, honey, I got a new job.
Yeah,
making more money. The headaches are gone.
Yep.
And then we know about this piece here. Ryan claims to have spoken to all publishers about Xbox Game Pass and according to him, they unanimously do not like Game Pass because it is value destructive. Now,
who said that?
This is Jim Ryan.
Oh, Jim Ryan.
Making a statement saying that he spoke to all. I refuse to believe that.
That's just like Burger King saying our burgers are better than McDonald's. That's just you're gonna have to say that. Like, that's your competition,
right?
So you're gonna say something that's damaging to them.
Yeah, but why say you've spoken? Well, I don't know many of the publishers have come out and say otherwise. I mean, there was a few. I mean, I think there was an indie, but like, nah, our games are on Game Pass.
Yeah.
But I'm like, dude, you indie. You're not top AAA or second or third.
Was it that article or the other one where the developers were like, it's even harder to make the games on the Xbox?
Yes. So, yeah.
That's why the developers don't like that. The coders, they're like, it's actually harder to make it for the console.
Right. And it was a lot easier to develop on the PlayStation 5. Right. And then also to talk about, is the Xbox Series S holding back the Series X? And then you come out and find out that the Series S is their main console. Then I'm like scratching my head. I'm like, oh my goodness, dude, what is going on at Xbox, man? I
saw the numbers the other day. Isn't like the Xbox Series S, like, it still hasn't even outperformed the original Xbox 360,
Xbox One.
Dude, that is.
I think it was the Xbox Series X and S has not outperformed the the Xbox One.
Oh, it's the one.
So the Xbox One has more. I was like, man, you can't be serious right now. this, and like I said before, it's not the size of the dog in the fight; it's the size of the fight in the dog. I mean, come on, motion in the ocean, baby. I mean, great. We got a great product. Fine, great. Now you got to show up. Yeah. You got to drop some content. I'm excited about those games you showed like 3 years ago, and still we haven't heard anything. I haven't heard anything about Indiana Jones or Perfect Dark.
Perfect Dark, that's right. Yeah.
Perfect Dark, man.
Heard that. Oh man.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Fable. We got two trailers and I guess supposedly gameplay, according to some, and that's okay. On Fable, I'm like, man, this is shaping up to be good. And Hellblade 2.
Yep.
Nothing. So I'm like, what's going on, man? And not just to pick on Xbox here, also some games from PlayStation. I still want Little Devil Inside. I don't know. You probably be like, man, that's not my type of game, whatever.
No, not at all.
So we're gonna move on. I have my own stream about Little Devil Inside. Okay. All right. So we are done with our discussion on this podcast about the state of gaming. So we're going to go to the chat one more time for final thoughts. So if you have anything that you want to ask or throw in the chat, throw it in there right now. Local says we can buy systems now online that have every game all the way to the Switch. That would stop that in the future. Okay, I don't buy music no more. It's because I bought physical stuff. But I do get the future will be all digital, but it will change everything and only benefit some.
It could benefit. I mean, the thing is that with the technology, it kind of forces humanity to go in a certain way. Just like there was a time when everyone, used horses to get around. And then Henry Ford came along and said, no, you're going to be forced eventually to drive a car. And that's just the way it is. Technology comes, innovation pushes humanity forward, even though some people may prefer to still ride a horse. It's just, there's going to be things in our evolution that we may not like the tool, but it's does it benefit the majority? Yes. Is it going to benefit all? No. I mean, there's always going to be some people that's going to be like, this is not for me. But for the majority of people, they're not going to mind it.
And when it also comes to innovation and the advancement of technology, these people are always looking at what could help better the quality of life of humanity moving forward. So that's huge as well. Now, again, I like to sit on both sides of the fence. Start Skynet, AI technology, and
if you want to know the future, just look at movies.
Just exactly. So
eventually, technology catches up with the human imagination.
And then when you get that question,
I just don't want to be around once we reach Skynet ever. It's like, I want the Ready Player One VR suit, but don't give me the dystopian future with it.
Exactly. Exactly. I want the Final Fantasy.
Yeah. Don't give me the atomic bombs being dropped everywhere.
Exactly. That does nothing for us.
Leave that part out of it. Just leave that part out of it. Give us the technology, but leave that, mass extinction level events.
But he says innovation and technology would also be the end of us. Yes.
That's an existential conversation.
Yeah, because we can go into great detail about that, man, and have a long conversation about where we are today with technology and these great minds. People are smart, man. Sometimes I even sit back and reminisce, like, how the hell they build these cars, man? Like airplanes. Like, damn, like, how did they do it? How did they keep this up in the air, man? Combustion, all that stuff. What happens if the power goes out? Well, I think we all know the answer to that. It goes out, man. That's pretty much it, man. We get hit with an EMP. No internet. No cell phones.
Yeah.
No way to connect. It's gonna be like The Last of Us. Well, yeah. It'd be The Last of Us, man. It's gonna be a dog-eat-dog world right there.
That's why everyone should learn how to farm and hunt.
Exactly.
Farmers will be perfectly fine. They won't even know an apocalypse or depression is going on.
Exactly. And that's I hate to bring my my missus. I know she's probably watching. She's like, I'm gonna get you. Well, let's just put it like that. Some people grow up with everything handed to them. They have no clue, right? Someone like myself and the thinker, hey, if the shoe fits, wear it. We get that experience, right? I was taught how to hunt, et cetera, how to survive, and also in the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
We were trained in certain things. So if you have someone who grew up rich and have no clue about life, and that's all they knew, when the world goes to how are you going to survive? I know instinct is going to kick in, but what's the show?
Survivor.
Yeah, Survivor and Naked and Afraid and
Bear Grylls Island and all those survival shows. Yeah. Actually, it would be a course correction for like modern day feminism, like all these women that think like they're independent, they don't need a man. I always say when S hits the fan, and if things were to go to like apocalyptic, then it'll all be sudden of like, where's the man? I need a man to protect me, type of deal. Because once you revert back to like when the stuff was tough, now we have all these modern conveniences.
Yep.
It's like when you go back to how humans first started, this whole like I'm independent, all this stuff that all goes out the window.
He says, but I can still play my old games, laugh out loud on solar. Okay. And my old VHS tapes and 8-tracks. Hey, at least you have something, right? I'm gonna miss the PlayStation 5 and Xbox. I can't play anything.
Well, everything's gonna go back to analog.
Everything. I just mess with you guys sometimes, right? Oh yeah, we know, man. We chill over here, man. We don't take we having fun over here, man. That's what it's all about, dude. Try to get a reaction. And that's what we do over here, man. We love you too, man. We got it. So, that concludes the podcast today. So I'd like to thank the Thinker for coming through once again.
Anytime, man.
And hopefully we can continue doing more podcasts. And like I said, Loco, D-Nice, and all you guys, if you guys want to join, man, we can hook you up. If you just want to just be on the screen and, you don't have to show your face, anything, you just want to speak, you can be quiet the whole time. I mean, that defeats the purpose.
Loco will probably be like Deep Throat from Watergate. Blacked out, voice change.
I know, right?
I'm in witness protection.
I guess, man. I don't want you guys to hear my original voice. This is what I think. So he doesn't be traced back at all. But there's gonna be some people that's gonna know him. But you cool, we got you.
Yeah, there wasn't it like the 4chan people? They someone put a picture of like, where's this monolith? They had a monolith like in the desert, and like the 4chan people, these people in this community, like they'll see something in the background, and they'll do like their internet super sleuth. Yeah. And then like posted the lat long coordinates and be like, yo, this is your house. Be like, hey, I see that thing in the background. Yeah. Oh yeah, you can only buy it at this store. That narrows it down to this vicinity, this radius.
Exactly.
They'll. Oh man.
He said, especially if she's watching. I know, right? All right. Shout out to the wifey though. It's all love. I don't know what's in this cup, but
Give it to the dog first.
I gotta let the dog taste it first. Then we'll definitely know what's up. Yo, we love you guys, man. Make sure you hit the like button. If you'd like to see us do more podcasts, please, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Turn on notification bell and all so that you don't miss out on any of the podcasts that we do here on the channel. Gameplays, etc. We beat Resident Evil Separate Ways yesterday. That took me 3 hours and 45 minutes. Beat it.
Dude, when I saw that gameplay, man, I was like,
I know. Wait a minute. Hold on now. Hold on. We replayed. You talking about the second playthrough?
No, I only saw the first one.
Okay.
Got better in the second one.
Yeah. Okay. You know what? Watch the first 2 minutes of the video.
No, I thought it was Helen Keller playing. I was like, what are you shooting at?
I was like, yo, that first gameplay was a disaster.
You were just spraying the wall.
This is not me. This is not who I am as a Resident Evil fan. You know what I'm saying?
Man, I'm almost out of ammo. You think?
So we did a live stream yesterday. We started from the beginning, and we played it all the way through. A whole lot better, man. You know what I'm saying? Yes, I was shooting at the walls. I'm trying, just trying to get. Come on, guys. It is what it is. That stream, if you want to get laugh, that stream is still up. I don't want to get rid of that. It has some views on there. But we did play it all the way through. We did beat it. So another Resident Evil in the books. Now we just wait and see what Capcom has to offer next, man. Hopefully they give us something here pretty soon.
Just to stay true to its source. Stick with the zombies. Stick with the. If you do a retelling, where we discuss this, you can go a different route where. T-Virus and Umbrella, just stick to the source material, man. We don't like this what Hollywood does.
Right.
They take the classic movies and then they remake them, and it's just like, dude, just give us what we like.
Exactly. All right, love you guys. Take care of yourselves, and peace out. See you in the next Gaming Interaction podcast. Take care of yourselves.